Startups are being seen as a key player in the maritime industry as the sector safeguards itself from crises like the COVID-19 pandemic. Such companies and what they can bring through innovation and technology has been a theme so far during the Singapore Maritime Week. To provide more insight, we have Ted Tan, Deputy CEO of Enterprise Singapore, and he's joined by Nidhi Gupta, CEO and co-founder of Portcast, which provides logistics management solutions. Good evening to both of you. Nidhi, let's start with you. Beginning more broadly, how has the outlook for a maritime startup changed in recent years?
Thank you for the question. I see three aspects which are key how startups have changed in the maritime space. The first being that the maritime companies themselves have become more ready to digitally transform and looking to move away from Excel and more manual or archaic ways of working to adopt automation and deep technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning. Secondly, startups have become more stronger in terms of building a stronger tech differentiation and also having a deeper understanding of the maritime domain because it's so specific and the technology needs to suit and fit this industry. And the third thing I feel which has changed in recent times is hubs like Singapore are creating stronger maritime ecosystems to support startups. For example, in Singapore, we've seen the Pier 71 and also the Seeds Capital program, the support that they offer in terms of funding and also in terms of commercialization of startups. I think all of these three enablers in terms of what the companies themselves are transforming to what the startups are doing in terms of adopting more sophisticated technologies and what ecosystems are doing. I think those are the key recent changes that have happened.
And Nidhi, tell us about how your company then fits into the maritime ecosystem and what opportunities there are for companies like yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So at Portcast, we predict how cargo moves across the world. We predict the demand and the arrival times of cargo. And how we do this is by taking into account any external risks that are likely to impact the movement of cargo. This could be about the routes that the vessels are taking, the weather patterns, congestion at different ports, economic changes, etc. And especially in the recent years, external disruptions have kind of become a norm in ocean supply chains. We've seen congestion at ports due to Brexit in the US ports. We've seen cyclones that disrupt movement of ships, but also port operations. The unfortunate incidents like the explosion at the port in Beirut, and more recently, the Suez Canal incident. I think all of these just make it very critical for manufacturers and logistics companies to predict cargo movement early enough and build scenarios. So what we do is we basically help these companies in building an intelligent control tower that can enable them to manage their cargo globally anywhere in the world in a more automated and a proactive fashion.
Ted, the government is increasingly banking on collaborations with the private sector, perhaps for more solutions. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, thanks, Dawn and Steve, and also Nidhi for your comments on the startup ecosystem. Well, as a key driver of the development of the startup ecosystem in Singapore, Enterprise Singapore, ESG, works very closely with public agencies and also the private sector to provide a spectrum of support required to co-create solutions to address the industry problems. So to support innovation among our companies, ESG helps SMEs, and I think Nidhi mentioned earlier about the Pier 71, we support SMEs and startups and find the right platform. So in this case here, we look at open innovation to test their solutions with corporations and also large SMEs and large local enterprises so that they can build a track record. And last year, together with our companies and also government agencies, ESG launched 15 open innovation calls and about 115 problem statements or challenge statements, and we received about 1,500 proposals, which shows the strong interest from global SMEs and also startups, which really strengthens Singapore's position as a global innovation and connectivity hub.
Yeah, Ted, this pivot to innovation and
these
connectivity,
are all beefing up the local
it isn't
ecosystem.
just specific to the maritime industry, is it?
No, this is beyond maritime industry. Actually, it goes beyond across different industry. And if I may add one more point, we also work with co-investment partners. For example, in the area of maritime industry, ESG, as well as the MPA, the Maritime Port Authority, roll out a $50 million maritime co-investment fund. Again, this is to show the collaboration between public and private industries, the private sector. And we develop solutions to help improve the operational efficiency and safety across the different segments in the maritime sector. So again, we work with maritime industry and also other industries through co-investment with private sector funds. And I'm happy to share that the Seeds Capital recently also co-invested in a company called F-Drones with Innoport, which is one of the 6 co-investment partners in the Maritime Co-Investment Fund. And F-Drones is a Singapore company, a startup company that offers drone deliveries to ships. And it's also developing a drone capable of handling payloads of up to 100 kg. So I think we're very happy to support the ecosystem here.
Well, thank you both for speaking to us this evening. Ted Tan, Deputy CEO of Enterprise Singapore, and Nidhi Gupta, CEO and co-founder of Portcast.